Welcome to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, popping, locking, salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map, and stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Welcome to the mashup. Welcome to the welcome to the mashup.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Well, I know a few of you are going to be disappointed. You're waiting for Twos to come on, and you're like, where's the Twos rant this week? We got a little different show plan this week. Twos is incognito this week. He can't make it, so we got a guest host coming in, and I'll invite him in here in a second. But welcome to the Mashup 176. Thanks for joining us on another Friday, folks. And I'm sorry, I don't have a rant planned. I'm definitely not Twos, and I'm not sure this guy... Welcome to the show, Vesper. Has rant either planned, but Vesper's filling in the shoes of Twos, which some will say are large to fill. Others will think they're pretty small. I don't know. What say you on a Friday morning, Vesper?
Well, good morning, everybody. And honestly, I do think they are big shoes to fill. But I think Twos definitely, if he had to pick somebody, he'd want somebody that would be able to make fun of him and poke at him. And so. He picked the right guy.
Well, I appreciate you answering the call. On this side, I was driving up to Calgary for the We Unify conference, and along the way, Twos had called, and he's got a couple things going on in his personal life. Nothing serious, folks, business related, and so he was not able to make it this morning for Mashup 176, and so we'll do our best on this side. I don't have any rants. I'm not Twos. I don't try to be Twos at all. So if you're enjoying the show, though, make sure before we get going here that you hit the retweet button on X if you're watching there. Anywhere else, share with a friend. It's appreciated, as we know, on certain platforms. I don't know, YouTube, cough. I keep getting removed from their Vesper. That has got to be... It's frustrating, but it's also kind of like that's the world we're in these days. Like I just...
Why you getting removed off of there?
The last one was Debbie Moyer talking about cancer. So she was talking about sunlight and I don't know, different things like ivermectin and I just like standard things. I thought it was. I didn't think it was that extreme of an episode, but YouTube certainly did. So I'm suspended from my channel on there until October.
Oof.
Yeah. So
you're touching these hot topics that I think a lot of these diehard liberals are just not going to let go. And let's be fair, there's a whole lot of rot, bro. And even though they don't put that tag no more about like COVID-19 is a blah 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 on all the YouTube channels, there's still an entire monolith operating in the background. And yeah, man, it's a culture war. It's a truth war. It's a evil versus good war, and we've been fighting it. It's just thankfully now we're starting to see some cracks in our opponents' perspectives. I'm sorry that you're going through this, but
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't even bother me really.
I feel like we're in the Matrix, bro, and like we're looking for the key maker, like the guy that's gonna get us the keys to enter these doors that are sealed by the architect of all these things. So let's keep going. I think we're gonna have a good show anyway.
Oh yeah, well we got a guest popping in here in probably 5 minutes, so that'll be fun. And then the last time you were on, shout out to Yep That's Me on X saying, do we need to post bail for Twos? No, you don't need to post bail for Twos. No, that seems to be a running joke since I left on holidays of posting bail for me. But wherever Twos is sitting, I'm sure he's tuning in. He was pretty excited when I told him you were hopping in his place. And anytime we get to have Vesper on the show, I think we're excited I'm excited on this side. But one of the things me and you talked about last time was like, instead of having 5, I yell at Twos every time before every show. I'm like, you do this to me every week. You keep adding things like 2 minutes before the show. And Twos is like, yeah, but there's so much news going on. And this week, people will probably, it's going to be, I think, a slower pace in the sense that there isn't 800 things we're going to try and get through. There's some big things going on in Canada that we're gonna touch on, a couple things to the States. But appreciate you answering the call, because it was a call late last night. Like, hey, I'm driving to Calgary. I need a co-host for tomorrow. Are you interested? And Vesper always puts the right foot forward, in my opinion, and I appreciate you saying yes.
No problem, man. It's my pleasure. And I told you, man, anytime you guys need it, I love you guys.
Now, people will probably wonder where the heck I'm at. I got to give a shout out to Silver Gold Ball. I'm sitting in one of their offices. I've done this from time to time, even on the Mashup. They've been a major contributor to the podcast, so shout out to them. Happy Airborne Friday to all the boys. Last week we said, it's Airborne Friday. They're not always happy, in honor of Charlie Kirk and some of the other things going on. But it is a happy Airborne Friday to all the military men out there who tune in, specifically Jamie Sinclair, who's been a guest host of this several times. And, I got a lot of time for some of the people that come on the show, and Jamie's been a fixture on the podcast for some time, going back actually into the middle of COVID when he first hopped on the show and told some stories and maybe some warnings of what was going on in Canada back then. So happy Airborne Friday, everybody. If you are enjoying the show, make sure you like, you share, and in Tuz's famous words, get a rooster tattoo. So appreciate all of you Mashup folks and be along for the ride. We do have a guest hopping in here at some point, but before we get there, how about we start with this, Vesper? And if we have to sideline when our guests hop in, we can always come back to it.
Sure.
Notwithstanding, Alberta to use notwithstanding clause on its 3 transgender laws leaked memo shows. Alberta Premier Daniel Smith has directed officials to invoke the Charter's notwithstanding clause in amending 3 laws that affect transgender people, says a leaked government memo obtained by the Canadian Press. The internal document sent September 10th by Justice Department asked other departments to assemble information as per directive by Ms. Smith's office to invoke the clause. Quoted, as you are aware, the Premier's office has directed that legislation be developed for the fall legislative session to amend the following pieces of legislation to permit each to operate notwithstanding the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Alberta Bill of Rights, says the memo from Malcolm Lavoie, Deputy Minister of Justice. The legislative initiative is highly sensitive and should be approached with the utmost confidentiality. Of course, the 3 laws introduced last year, the law prohibiting doctors from providing gender-affirming treatments such as puberty blockers and hormone therapy for youth under 16 isn't yet in effect because of a temporary court injunction issued June. Alberta appealed the injunction in August. The education law came into effect at the start of the school year. It requires students under 16 to have parental consent to change their name or pronouns in school. Those aged 16 and 17 don't need to consent, but they need parents to be notified. And the 3rd law, which is in effect, blocks transgender athletes 12 and older from competing in female amateur sports in Alberta. It said the notwithstanding clause is rarely used provision that allows governments to override certain sections of charter up to 5 years. It's a tool Ms. Smith has said was on the table as last resort regarding the government's transgender health restrictions. Your thoughts?
So, the problem ultimately is that, people should be free to do whatever they want, whether we agree with it or not. But sadly, a lot of these movements have been co-opted by politicians and have been used to wedge a lot of people in their ideologies. You and I are Christians. We're against that kind of lifestyle. Doesn't mean that it's the only thing that we're against. We'd be against adultery if that was the case, or pedophilia, or anything that is basically anti our faith, essentially. But it has gone into and been weaponized by governments. In my mind, whatever Danielle Smith is doing, she's basically listening to her voter base. She's listening to what the people in her constituency are saying, and she's willing to act. Now, I mean, it's no surprise. I'm in Montreal, right? Like Montreal is like not only can we do everything that you just said she's fighting against, but we also don't want anything that's religious. We want to be a complete secular society. This is an ideological battle, and it's been going on for decades between the West and the East, basically in Canada. Now, I think you could safe to say with the Trump administration, she's more aligned with the Trump administration on this than she is with basically the Canadian government. And I don't know if that's strategic on her part. What do you think?
I don't know. It's funny. Like, I'm all for all the things they've put in. Like, it sucks when like politics moves away from what you true-heartedly believe in. That kids shouldn't be exposed to a whole bunch of this stuff, and it just doesn't make any sense. And instead of society just being like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," and let's just remove it, you have two competing factions that are going at each other.
It's a worldview battle, precisely.
Right. Yeah, and so like like what do they come out with? They come out with like she's banning all these books, and it's like, well, that's not true. Like there's actually,
this. I'm sorry, I got to cut you off, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to cut you off. We've reached this tipping point threshold now. It was coming. It was inevitably coming to this, where defining what is fair, what is free, is now up for debate. And the problem is that it is the whole narrative is an entire treatise on perspective rather than what is established truth. And so the notion of truth and truth itself is what's at stake here. Not my truth, not your truth, the truth. Is it right to show pornographic images in books to kids? If you believe that that is correct, there are a couple of things I'd like to ask you. Why is it that even in the most hedonistic society, Rome, Greece, whatever, anyone caught doing anything with a child, now they did do it. The people in government were usually the people doing it. But if you were caught doing anything to children, there is not only an innate primal instinct in the people to completely damage you for this, but a vehement repudiation of such vile behavior. I mean, imagine even back in Rome, right? The cesspool of sexuality. No man could marry a man. Imagine, this is Rome we're talking about, where like literally they had naked people walking around the castle, having orgies constantly. But even the notion, if you were to go up to Caesar, like, hey, Julius, Octavius here looks really attractive. He and I have had a really good relationship. I think I should cut his penis off, and I think we should get married. Oh, and we want to start teaching our kids about this. This is, imagine, to a place like Rome and Greece, which was far more of a hedonistic society. And, well, that could be argued.
That could be argued.
Even they would be like, excuse me, you want to marry Marcus? What do you mean? Maximus has a wife. Yeah, but Maximus and I are in love now. And my kid, Flavian, actually wants to be called Flavia now. And like none of this would make sense if you were to go back to the worst part of our society. But as progressivism and postmodernism has moved on, right? Postmodern truth is up for debate. This is where we're at. This is why you'll have this whole, I know we're going to cover it in a bit, Antifa. We're going to cover Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to cover all these things that in 20 years ago would have never been up for debate. But suddenly, because of the political wedging and the political propaganda, things that are normally not questioned, like, is this a banana? They're like, well, I don't know. Is it really a banana? We've arrived at this level of stupidity, and we've all been warned. I mean, and I'll end on this. Plato himself ultimately said democracy ultimately leads to anarchy and mob rule. And when you give people massive freedom without and let alone like changing the laws, to defend basically what is anti-science, essentially, just for optics and basically appeasing the rabble, this is what you're going to get. You're going to have guys walking around. And again, I have nothing against people that are gay. That's your choice. I don't agree with that lifestyle, but that's your choice. You have the freedom to do that, just as I have the freedom to believe in whatever I want to believe. But ultimately, at the end of the day, that's one thing to choose that. It's another thing when you not only give rights to that, but then you force and weaponize that. And now a government in Alberta is going, yeah, we're not good with like basically kids watching blowjobs in their books. Like, at what point did decency get out the window, right? And I think those that are liberal, classic liberals, would also agree. You know, there are videos, Sean, of liberals that were against abortion. Trudeau just fired them. People forget this, guys. This isn't conservatism versus liberalism. This is normal people that are fighting the extreme end of a particular ideology, right? You have classical liberals that would tell you, yeah, of course I don't want blowjobs in my kids' high school or elementary school. So it's not just conservatives. We're talking about decent, common sense people, and they exist. They can exist on both sides. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if everything that's going to happen in the next year that we're going to watch is going to just turn a lot of people back forcefully, unfortunately, into the conservative side of things.
Well, why don't we invite our guest in? We got Tej Johansson sitting backstage, volunteer football coach at HJ Cody, or formerly at HJ Cody High School in Sylvan Lake, who was fired in September, I should say, this past September, due to his personal views on transgender ideology expressed in a TikTok video. I mean, it fits in perfectly what you're talking about, Vesper. Tej, welcome to the show.
Hey, Sean, good to see you. Thanks for having me again.
What's up, Coach?
Vesper, how you doing? Good to meet you. I was just listening.
I'm gonna call you Coach. That's it.
I love it,
Coach.
You know, it's funny. It's funny because since I've had basically every time I go anywhere, someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, are you the coach? I heard you on the Sean Newman podcast." So it happened at the Charlie Kirk vigil. About 14 different people came up to me. It's happened at the grocery store every time I go. So, and it's all been supportive, which has been amazing. I've had no in real life negative reactions, only anonymous accounts online.
Tej, if you wouldn't mind briefly, Vesper sits out in Quebec, and I was telling him about your story, but maybe there's people on the mashup who don't know part of it. Just walk Vesper through. I don't mean to rush you, but you know, maybe an abbreviated story, because I'd love for Vesper to ask a couple questions from a guy who's sitting out on the east side of Canada to ask a few questions of what's happening here in Alberta.
Yeah, no problem. I think I've gotten pretty good at telling the shorthand version of the story. So essentially, excuse me. Essentially, I made a TikTok video probably about 3 weeks ago now, and it's still up on TikTok. It was so egregious that it didn't even violate TikTok's rules. So it's still up there, which is, if you know anything about TikTok, you understand that was sarcasm. They take basically anything down that they don't like. So it's still up there. And the principal at my school, I've coached there for 10 years, and this is my 10th season coaching there. And she got word of this TikTok, and the school system is very heavy into one way of thinking when it comes to, you know, trans ideology, and that's that you must support it. Gave me a phone call Sunday at 9:00. This would have been 3 weeks ago this coming Sunday. So 9:00 at night, and told me that because of that TikTok video, I was fired from coaching, no longer allowed on school property even. So, so then my parents or the players and their parents found out about this very quickly. They sent about 60 emails to the superintendent and to the principal at the school here in Sylvan Lake. And then that kicked off kind of a media storm. And I had, you know, when I've got 60 emails from parents and players glowing about me and how much they want me to coach their kids and how much I've done for them in their lives, you know, that sets off something when people are getting let go for kind of a freedom of speech thing. I simply said in my TikTok video, I believe that this trans ideology is harming kids. I believe it's recruiting vulnerable kids into an ideology and telling them that this is going to solve all your problems. And I made that video before Charlie Kirk. And that video now is even more relevant because I said in that video, and you can still go watch it because it's still up there, I said this is going to get worse. And I was specifically talking about the Minneapolis trans shooting that happened in that video. That's kind of what sparked that video. So, and it's happened again. We're seeing it now. We're seeing it even on a deeper level with this Discord thing and how these groups are there. So it's that's essentially what happened, and I'm still fighting it. I got a lawyer team working with me, so demand letter was sent, and now we're in kind of this waiting period.
If before Vesper has any thoughts, the demand letter, just walk us through that, because I think that's new to anyone watching the show.
Yeah, so I had Freedom's Advocate, who is just wonderful people. They are a Freedom's Advocate's a charity, and you go into the website freedomsadvocate.ca. You can donate to them. You can go to the GoFundMe I have set up and donate to them there as well. They contacted me and said, this is who we are. We're a charity. We pay everything for you. So we're going to pay for your lawyer. We're all through donations. This lawyer works solely on your case. We think you have a case. We think your charter rights were violated. We think your Alberta Bill of Rights were violated. We think they didn't follow policies and procedures. And so they started working for me. And they've been amazing, just incredible. They wrote a demand letter, which was sent over a week ago now. So we've been radio silence. We've heard nothing. The demand letter essentially stated, here's all the, I believe I sent it to you, Sean. I think so. But all the breaches of policy that you guys did. Here's the charter issues. Here's the Alberta Bill of Rights issues. We're simply demanding that you make an apology and reinstate me as coach. And we have heard nothing over a week. So,
Vesper, you're the guy sitting out east, hearing this for the first time. I'm curious. You're scratching your chin. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Coach, I want you to feel very encouraged that there is a win in here for you. I'll tell you why. 2 years ago, I was introduced to these two knuckleheads, and I got on their show, and I told them about a problem I was going through my school. I think Sean vaguely recalls what I was going through. My school, and I could share my screen, by the way, and show you guys how you're going to win in this, okay? As long as you got the proof, you're going to win. The problem is that our school system is co-opted by school boards that are basically stiff-necked people that will fight against laws, right? Not social equity. They will think that you are stupid and not do your job and literally invoke the law. And my school had a problem, Coach, where everybody was using a Google Chromebook. And I think you know that what a Chromebook is. It's not a laptop. It's basically it's a cloud computing system, right? With the Google the Google pipeline things, right? Google Drive, Google Gmail, Google everything, Slides. And the problem is that I ended up finding out that basically elementary school kids in a school system of 200 schools had access to pornographic images all over Google Drive. I initially wrote the principal. The principal was shocked. She sent it to IT. The IT was like, the filters must not be working. Long story short, this went up to the chairman of the board of the school, who contacted me personally and was like, look, we can't stop everything. I'm like, are you listening to what you're saying? Yeah. Your entire network is compromised. My kids could literally now type titties and ass and see titties and ass. And I don't want to share it for everybody to see, but I can show you something. I went through the steps just to do the steps. Nobody helped, by the way. So you're going to find this, apart from the people supporting you after the win, usually, you're going to have to do a lot of this legwork and win this, okay? Because a lot of people typically are very timid. They don't want to get involved in something they don't understand, blah, 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 blah. I ended up going to the school ombudsman. Now, when I went to the ombudsman, I thought it was like, like they're actually impartial. Actually, they just happen to be an employee called an ombudsman. They gave me a BS answer. And their solution to the problem is, and I kid you not, I could put it up on the screen, Safer Internet Day. So we're not going to fix the mechanism. We're just going to send a letter to all the parents, letting them know that we're invoking this day, February 2nd, as Safer Internet Day. They even made a mascot, okay, which was hilarious. The second step for me was to go to the regional ombudsman. Now we're talking provincial, okay? They did an investigation, and dude, I had all the receipts, all the videos, all the interviews, all the graphic images. I walked into the school, went on the laptop, recorded the laptop in the principal's office. She was completely shocked, and the ombudsman ultimately gave me the victory. They shut down their network. They shut down the network for all of them and gave them 2 months to rectify this. And at the end of the day, they passed it on to the national ombudsman in Canada, who's now reviewing all of the Google pipelines. And my kids, I went in this year to go check it out, Coach. There's nothing anymore. There's a whole lot of restriction that's been added. But I was the one that was given the runaround, and nobody in the school system did anything. So I am totally understanding your situation, that your particular ideology and worldview does not permit for this. But for some of these people who happen to be, by the way, his name is Paulo Galati. I'm not worried to mention names, okay? Paulo Galati is the chairman of the board for my school system. And this guy is best friends with Marco Mendocino, David Lametti. It's all over his Instagram page. They go out, they eat. And so there's a whole lot of liberal ideology being passed down here in my English school system in Montreal. And when I called it out that it's illegal, instead of dealing with the problem, they just gave me the runaround. And then they said that I was being unrealistic. I was not being like understanding that, the internet, at some point they're going to see it, is one of the rationalizations they gave me, which I couldn't believe. Yeah. This is the kind of sick stuff that you're dealing with. But at the end of the day, I got the win, because the National Ombudsman wrote them a 3-page resume after their findings of 2 months of investigations that you guys have breached not only the protocols of the provincial government, but even the federal government's laws on basically adult content. But then at the same time, she discovered that for 3.5 years, they had not had any parents sign any consent for anything like this. And that is the law, not provincial, federal law. And so I talked to my lawyer. They said, listen, we have room for a class action lawsuit here. The problem I have in Montreal, Coach, is that we don't have a whole lot of English schools. And I think you can understand why in Quebec they're really against English. It was a two-edged sword. Either I go after them for the BS that they did, but then paint the English school system in a bad light, which would only give the French government more reason to crack down on English-speaking people, basically in the province. So I want you to know, we ultimately won. I go into the kids stuff now, and there's nothing, not even a peep. And Sean will tell you, I'm OCD. So in your particular case, for you to express your point of view, I think you're going to have to investigate what your rights are, which is what you're probably doing with your lawyer. And for me, ultimately, based on the charter, based on the federal laws that I saw, I had every right to run this process. And my gut's telling me you're going to win. That's what my gut's telling me.
I feel, I really do feel that. I think that my lawyer's been amazing, and the support that I've gotten across the country has been incredible. I mean, like, almost overwhelming. How much support that I've gotten. And I think that the school board has to see that. I know they know that, because I know they've gotten at least 60 emails, but probably honestly hundreds more, because I only know about the emails that I was CC'd in from my players and their parents. But when this broke on Rebel News and Western Standard and Sean Newman podcast, I know for a fact that they would have been getting a lot more. So I think they understand the room here. And so we're curious what's taking so long for them to respond. So we're not really sure what they're kind of up to, but I think that hopefully we'll find out soon.
Sean, do you mind if I share something just to show
No,
one of those? Yeah. All right, let's share something here real quick to show you the level of disgustingness that I was dealing with, basically. This is in the school.
While Vesper's searching, Teach, my normal co-host Twos is not in attendance, so you're getting Vesper from Quebec today, which Vesper always brings an added flair from the eastern side of Canada. Here, Vesper, this is what you're.
So this is at the school, okay? This is at the school, grade 4, okay, grade 3.
That's definitely a Chromebook, yeah.
Look at this. I could look all this stuff up. And it's not just porn, it's violence too. Look at this. I want all parents across Canada who are watching to understand this is what you're dealing with. None of your kids are, and they're going to pretend they're not doing this, but there is a deliberate, in my estimation, and willful negligence on purpose to indoctrinate your kids. Naughty spin wheel challenge sexy. For a grade 4, grade 3. Back in the day, bro, we used to have to go to the library to look up, like, how nude women look like from like a scientific book, you know, like, oh, look, she has breasts, you know, like
National
things like this.
Geographic.
Well,
Right.
I was gonna say the Sears catalog, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Or
the
things
Sears
like,
catalog.
no, that was at home. Let's be honest. That was at home. Okay. But at school, it was always a science books. Now they have access to internet, and the parents and the teacher, the parents either don't care, don't know, because they are trusting that no way you would let them see naughty spin wheel challenge. So what coach is doing, and what many like you coach are doing, are bringing light to the fact that you guys are trusting a system that is not playing ball the right way. Right? Am I wrong in saying that? They're just not playing ball the right way.
That's 100% correct. And I think that's what I've, you know, when this first happened, obviously for me, it was just the parents and the players, and I wanted my job back. And then when this kind of took off, what I realized is that we've got a much bigger issue within the schools. And you know, all these people are calling to fire the principal at the school. And I mean, that's their opinion. My opinion is firing somebody and replacing them with someone who's exactly the same is not the answer to the systematic problem that we have within our schools right now. So it's not about firing one person. It's not about getting rid of one individual. It's about creating change within a system. And really what that change needs to come down to is, and I think Alberta's trying to do this, is like parental rights to know absolutely every single detail that's going on within a school. We are not giving our kids to the school. We are not telling them to raise our kids. That has changed obviously since we all went to school. And the secrets I think that schools have, maybe it's ignorance of parents. Like maybe it's not even secrets that the schools have. Maybe it's just parents that are, you know, used to trusting that schools are a place that aren't going to be pushing these things onto kids, these ideologies onto kids, these beliefs onto kids, these sexual things onto kids. And so maybe there's an ignorance within parents. But I think that stories like mine and stories like yours, hopefully will. Well, I know for a fact, reading the comments on all the videos that have come out about my story, is that parents are all saying, I got to relook where I'm sending my kids to school.
Yeah, big time, bro.
Yeah.
Look, let me share this real quick. One last thing. This was from the National Ombudsman. Look, this is Protecteur National des Élèves, the national protection of students. The following conclusions follow your request. This is me. I blurred out the names of the people that were involved. I don't want to out them. But look at the question. Has this school board taken all reasonable measures to enhance the security of the network used during web browsing by students in its educational establishment? Conclusion 1, this school has not taken all reasonable available measures to enhance the security in the network. Question 2, are the actions deployed by the school to supervise and enhance student protection during the web browsing compliant with current regulations and best practices? Conclusion, remember, this is the provincial ombudsman for students and the protection of students. The actions deployed to supervise and enhance student protection during web browsing are not entirely compliant with the current regulations and best practice. I don't want to tell you how they got spanked for this, but you gotta bring the receipts, man. You got to bring the law. You got to bring everything on why your opinion. Not only do you have the right to say what you want to say because that's what you believe, but that there are regulations also if you find stuff that should not be promoted. Right now, they teach pride in my kid's school. That's fine. You could teach my kid whatever you want. You can teach him about Islam. You can teach him about whatever. At the end of the day, he's coming home, and I'm going to tell him what we believe, and that's how it's going to be, right? But to fire me because you don't agree with that on the grounds of what? That you don't have a charter right. You don't have a charter right to your own belief system. No, well, you can't talk about it. What do you mean we can't talk about it? Of course I could talk about it. Now, I don't know the level of comment that you gave. That's something I haven't watched, Coach. But if you just gave your opinion on what you believe, I don't think they have any right to do that.
Well, like I said, you can. It was so egregious; it's still up on TikTok. So, I don't think I said anything terrible.
Touche.
Touche. The reality is that I simply see something with trans ideology that is harming kids, and it's my job as a coach and as a father and as someone that cares about the youth in our society and to spend my entire life around the youth of our society. It's my job to speak up about things that I think are harming them. And I mean, maybe maybe one day I'll be proven wrong and they'll prove to me that yes, puberty blockers were the greatest thing to ever happen. Yes, cross-sex hormones are the best thing to ever happen. And yes, gender reassignment, sexual reassignment surgery, totally the best thing. Maybe that will happen, and then I'll admit that I'm wrong one day. But I just obviously know that's not going to happen. Like, it's so clear to me that this is, and the problem that I struggle with when I debate people about these topics is that I've actually done the research that they don't want to do. I've read Abigail Schreier's book. I've listened to the podcast with Marcy Bauer.
Yeah, but coach, you're not accredited. That's the problem.
Of course, right?
You're not accredited. How can you're doing your own research? We're back to COVID at this point. What do you mean you're doing your own research?
Isn't that
trust
crazy?
the experts. Well, who's the expert? The experts are trans. Are you trans? It's like the dumbest argument. How could you know what a fish thinks? Are you a fish? Okay, seriously, like, this is the level of insanity we've arrived to. Like, I can't read something and formulate an opinion. You know, like, you have scientists that study astrophysics. Do they have to be astronauts to understand astrophysics? No. And how is studying happening anyway? By reading. Well, no, some people have to vet that you understood. Okay, well, can you give me a impartial person to tell me if what I've read is wrong? No, we're going to get somebody that's completely biased on the topic to judge you.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, coach.
Yeah.
You've fallen into the echo chamber in your school.
Well, and this is exactly the thing, right? So it's only good research if it's research they like, and it's everything else is terrible. I try to go at things with an open mind, because I actually do, and this is where I try to tell the people too, is we want the same thing. I want what's best for kids. You want what's best for kids. We just disagree on how we get there.
They don't.
No, here's the thing. I'm going to give them credit. I don't think the majority of people have nefarious things towards children. I think some people do. I think big pharmaceutical companies do, for sure. But I'm
talking about parents, bro. A lot of parents don't give a shit about their kids.
Well, and
I went to my school. I went to my school board. I asked 500 parents to help me. Nobody helped me. I'm telling you, a lot of these people don't understand, which is what you said.
Yeah.
Or they genuinely don't care, right? Not everybody's got a conscience like you, coach.
It's hard for me. You know what? You're probably right. It's so hard for me to even think that. Like, I look at my daughter and I think, how could anybody not care about that? That's wild to me. You're right. But I'm ignorant in that.
I went to see Logan, Sean. Logan, you know, that rated R movie where the guy puts 3 blades in the guy's skull?
Yes.
Dude, the entire front row is parents with popcorn, and they're like 12-year-old kids bringing tons of kids to a rated R movie. This is where society is. Yeah. This is not just the school systems. The parents have dropped the ball. People are walking around, letting their kids play Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty when they're 12 years old, man. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, this ain't just the school system. We've enabled them. We haven't exactly held the standard. I'm not saying I have. I'm saying we've all kind of needed to wake up. And I want everybody to stand up for coach. But before you stand up for coach, you kind of need to check yourself and say, what am I doing? I'm letting my kids watch this stuff. I'm letting my kids like get ingratiated into this stuff. And then one day the kid comes home and tells his dad, whoever it is, I'm a girl. And then the dad's shocked. How did this happen? I mean, how did this happen? You took him to see Logan, you dipshit. That's how this happened.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being so French.
I think it's a very interesting perspective. I guess in general, I try to see the good in people, and so maybe I am a little ignorant on that. I just a lot of times I make judgments based on what I would do in a situation, which is obviously a human thing. So it's hard always to put myself in other people's shoes. But yeah, I think you're probably right in a lot of aspects when you look at what's going on in our society. And I think that's a conversation we could have for a long time about all those types of issues.
Sean, coach is a decent man living in an indecent time. That's the problem. There was a decent time where decent people would look at what coach was saying and saying, but because we are living in an indecent era, people like him look like pariahs. And they're not.
I would say there's a lot of decent people out there, Vesper. The problem is society, the structures, the power structures that be. We witnessed this in COVID. When you stick your head up, they come after you. And so people are, I don't know if it's rightfully scared, but they're nervous to say anything. Aren't they?
No, no. There is
No?
actually there's actually studies, and I'm not going back to the sages of like Greek orthodoxy and philosophy, but there is such a thing called functional stupidity. You really should look it up. It's an actual thing. I'm not kidding. Write it down. Look it up. Functional stupidity. It is when the pressure of what seems to be true by mass bombardment of information subverts the mind. I don't know if you know this about me, Coach. I work in marketing and in PR. So this is like exactly what I do for a living. I have to help people formulate and structure the messaging, not only from a graphic point of view, but from a public relations point of view.
Do you want Grok? You want Grok's definition, Vesper, or
Yeah,
what it says?
go
this
ahead.
This is what it says. What is functional stupidity? Fictional stupidity or functional stupidity refers to the portrayal of character. No, this says fictional now. Why is it doing that? Oh, because I put fictional. Come on, Sean. Carry on. I'll get it.
Just do it. We're waiting.
Keeps trying to
autocorrect. Yeah,
yes,
know.
It does. Yes, it's driving me nuts. Okay, let's see if I can get it here. What is functional? All right, here we go. Come on. Like Grok, you're pissing me off this morning. Coined by sociologists Mats Alvesen and Andre Spicer in their 2012 paper, A Stupidity-Based Theory of Organizations. Functional stupidity is the art of embracing ignorance, superficial thinking, and intellectualism, not because people are dumb, but because it greases the wheels of bureaucracy, corporations, and social systems. It's functional because it keeps things running smoothly, promotion happens, conflicts are avoided, and no one rocks the boat.
You're rocking the boat, Coach. And that's what a coach is supposed to do. Yeah. You're supposed to rock the boat when the boat is sinking. Everything's sinking, but you can't be yelling at people, hey, this boat is sinking. So throw them off the boat, or else they'll save the boat.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we've arrived in society. A guy trying to save a boat. Throw him off the boat.
That I don't know if anyone said anything truer to me during this whole time. That makes extreme sense here. And
Tej, welcome to Vesper, and Vesper, welcome to Tej. I told Vesper you're coming on. He's like, well, this should be interesting because I know nothing of this story. So, Tej, before we let you out of here, I don't mean to speed it along, but Tej, anything else you want people to know before we let you out of here?
Yeah, I think the big thing is I just want to thank everyone for their support. And if you do see me in public or whatever, I like when you come say hi and just show me your support, because this hasn't been easy for me. Like at the end of the day, I've now been not coaching my boys for 3 weeks, and they have a game today that I'm not even allowed to go to because I'm not allowed on the property, which is for something I said, which is insane. So it's a heartbreaking time, and it's been tough for me, but the support has really kept me through. And so I appreciate you, Sean, and you've done a lot for me. And Vesper, so good meeting you. I see your Twitter there. I'll make sure I give you a follow. And like I said, lastly, thank you to Freedom's Advocate. Like, these guys are literally doing God's work. They're a Christian organization. They fight these charter cases. They're trying to create a difference in our world. So if you can go support them, either right at their website, Freedom's Advocate, or on my Give, Send, Go, either is fine. You do get a tax receipt if you do right to their website. So I just wanted to shout them out because they've been such a huge help for me as well. So thank you guys very much.
Everybody follow Coach.
Thank you.
Follow not because of popularity. Follow him just on the basis of truth. Follow a man like him.
Appreciate
and speak
that.
up.
Tej, what's your social media?
Yeah, so my Instagram is just TEEJ, and then went 55s, Tej 55555. My TikTok, where I've made the video and continue to make videos, is anti-woke 55555. So anti-woke. And then Twitter is just Tej Johannesson. You can search me up on Twitter there. Not as active on Twitter, mostly TikTok and Instagram. So
appreciate you hopping on, Tej, and doing this. And
God be with you, my man. God be with you, and He is with you.
Thank you.
You will win this.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right, Tej Johannesson. Volunteer football coach removed. There you go, Vesper. You were asking who I was bringing on today. He was supposed to come on last week, but with everything on the Charlie Kirk, we kind of shifted gears, as everybody, I think, understood, and Tej certainly understood as well. And speaking of Charlie Kirk, you got Jimmy Kimmel. You mentioned it before we got into different things. He's been removed. So Jimmy Kimmel went on air and told ABC audience that Charlie Kirk's assassin was a mega conservative, effectively claiming Charlie Kirk for his own assassination. Then he accused the right of covering up to score political points. I'm curious your thoughts on this, Vesper. What is your thoughts on Jimmy Kimmel being removed from on air?
I'm happy. So let me explain why I'm happy. I'm not happy because he's a liberal shill, Democrat shill. I'm not happy that he's a filthy human being. I'm not happy for any of that. I'm happy because a few things happened that people need to be, in my opinion, and I'm going to share what I think here. Freedom of speech, and I want to make this absolutely clear. I've had this discussion with a few friends that we both know. Some of them are very prominent on not only X, but other social media platforms. The concept of free speech, we all have free speech. You will never be able, no one will ever stop you from having free speech. All we have is the consequences of said free speech. Would you agree with that?
Sounds about right.
Had the facts not come out from the FBI, Utah State Police, the private investigators, it was posted everywhere on social media that this man was dating a furry, transgendered male that was transgendering or whatever you want to call it.
Transitioning, yes.
Yeah, to a female. Had he not confessed to his Mormon father, right? Had he not written manifestos, had he not asked, all this stuff was for 2 days, and it was littered all over social media, folks, all over. And then for you to stand up and to remember, if it was a guy that had 20 followers, nobody would have given a shit. You have a prime time slot. All the facts are out there, and you distort the facts. That is called consequence. Hey, he had a right to say it, right? He's not going to get shot. I mean, incidentally, wasn't this the same guy that was like absolutely happy and cheered on somebody? I forget who it was that got fired for their job for having an opinion. It was Jimmy Kimmel too. He was clapping it on. And listening to people tell me we're hitting a very fine line about where free speech is. No, there's freedom of speech. And then there's something that I think you and I understand, accountability. You must be held accountable for what you say. Jordan Peterson was taken to task, and you know this, for saying things that he believed. And then the council or the order of psychologists in Ontario basically felt they needed to teach him or re-educate him in how to say things, because in their worldview, there are consequences for what you say. But when it comes to the left, and you basically distort the truth that's been out for 2 days everywhere, there should be no consequences. Well, I'm not really a reporter. I'm a humorist. You know, you didn't mention Destiny, dude. Destiny was asking and saying, this is another left-wing psycho whatever, saying, I want conservatives to be afraid that every time they go out that they would get a bullet to the throat, that they would get shot. Had this guy been a nobody, okay, we could still report him, but he's not exactly influencing a ton of people. Jimmy Kimmel has, I don't know, God knows how many people following and listening to him. He's an influencer. He is, when we say influencer, it's because you have influence. You can influence people. Now, do I think everybody thought in his group of followers that what he said was true or tasteful? Probably not. But you just put politics above humanity. And that's where the problem is. A man died, all the proof is out, and you're still playing politics by saying this is a MAGA reporter. Well, I'm a comedian. You can't do that. You can no longer play that game because everything is true and you legitimately meant it. You weren't joking. And so in my mind, if anybody, by the way, I know I'm going everywhere here, Sean. There are people, and you know how I was against.
I have to deal with twos on a weekly basis where he goes everywhere, right?
No,
so you're doing great.
Hold on. Do you remember, Sean, how much I went at Justin Trudeau, and I still do, okay, on X. Okay. There were people posting things that were not true that Justin never said, okay? And they were taking it out of context, things concerning the notwithstanding clause, blah, blah, blah. I would go against them and say, he did not say that. You are lying. So we need to play this game so long as the game is true. And the people that I was fighting against and sometimes ratioing on X was because I would give the entire clip and the entire context of what he said. And he was not saying what you guys want him to say. If we play, we need to play fair. Believe me, there's enough evidence to damage anybody you want by just playing fair. Jimmy Kimmel decided, I don't know how in his head, maybe his handlers, maybe whoever, who knows, okay, that I'm going to get up and distort the facts. Number one, that could have legal repercussions also because the case is still ongoing. And there's going to be basically lawyers that are saying you are spreading lies that is perhaps interfering with our case. Number one. Number two, the FCC stands up and says, wait a minute. We know you're not the news, but you're reporting things not in a comedic way, but as though it was factual. And so in some sense, because of your influence, we will hold you responsible. And so the FCC placed pressure on ABC. Now, let me show you how I know, okay, or Disney or whoever. Let me show you how I know that he is guilty. ABC could have done what, Sean, when the FCC came at them?
Defended it?
Yeah, and appealed. How much did they appeal? Zero. Zero. You mean an entire organization, ABC, who is, by the way, self-proclaimed biased. Okay, they're not hiding it. They are biased, ABC. With no pushback, indefinitely canceled his show. Explain that to me. You mean, why didn't you appeal it? Why didn't you take this to court? Why? Because they knew what he just did can create massive liability because it's simply not true. And the amount of influence and misinformation you threw out, you liberals, and we're against misinformation. You're the biggest propagators of lies out there. I'm not saying conservatives don't do that either, but you dwarf them. You literally dwarf them. You've held power with Biden and Trudeau for so long in the West that you've basically been able to just roam free with lying, and now consequences are showing up. Never mind all these people getting fired for their idiocy on actually celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. Like, that should have told you already that these people, Sean, live in such an echo chamber that they're shocked that they got fired. And they probably realized that, wait a minute, the whole world doesn't think like me? No, that's the point. That's how much of a bubble all of you live in, that now you're all getting fired. Because frankly, most people, even if they're ignorant, they're decent people. And these decent people have had enough. They've just had enough with the lying. The facts were out there, Jimmy. Why are you distorting this? Why are you attributing this to Trump or MAGA? Why not just, let me show you another scenario. This poor kid who was raised by a Republican MAGA family, unfortunately, took an extreme view of the left. And, we have problems on the left. If Jimmy Kimmel had said that, there are people that go too far on our side, just like there is people on the right that go too far on the right side. We need to deal with our own. Bill Maher went against what he had to say and said, this is wrong, what he said. All these people were going against Kimmel from the left. So don't tell me this is freedom of speech. This is not about freedom of speech. This is about distorting the truth. And if you had had no influence, nobody would have given a shit. But when you influence millions of people, and there are some people that are functionally stupid, like we talked about a second ago, Sean, they might be liable to say, oh, wow, we're being weaponized, we're being framed. It might incite more violence. Like, do you get where I'm going with this? This leads to this. This leads to this. But the liberals don't think that way. They think they can just say whatever they want and it will not reverberate throughout society. Well, Jimmy Kimmel, you messed around and found out. And I'm glad that you're gone. In fact, I'm glad that you're gone. I'm glad that Colbert is gone. And this is why Bill Maher is getting his shit together. because you know that he's next if he doesn't get his shit together. You better start talking the truth. Bill Maher interviewed Trump. Remember when he had him on? He realized, he's like, holy cow, he is nothing like I thought I've been saying for years about him. But then Jimmy Kimmel has to make it about MAGA and Trump, that's who did all this horrific thing. No ethics, no accountability. Well, I'm glad the system is finally working.
Question for you. The government stepping in and putting pressure on to have this happen, because it wasn't ABC who went, oh, we're just going to remove it for those comments. It was the government.
FCC. It was the FCC.
Sorry, FCC. Yeah, thank you. Do you worry that in the future, a different government will step in like happened in COVID and remove, and go the opposite way? When a government has, like, you would hope that it would be ABC that steps in immediately, but that's not been the case. I mean, we just had T-John talking about different things going on here. Does that bother you all at all, that it's the government that puts the pressure to make sure it happens?
No. And I'll tell you why. Not because look, theoretically, I never want the government to do this. But dude, large, powerful people have lost their center of gravity, if you know what I'm saying. There is no way to deal with this cancer anymore. Give me a way that, like what? Everybody in the ABC base is their constituents of viewers are all Democratic liberal viewers. Okay. How are you going to boycott it when their entire base is basically people that think like they do? Right. At some point, this cancer is being spread. Let me ask you a question. I'll return your question with a question. Do you think it's appropriate for a government to defund the CBC?
Yes.
Don't you worry, though, that the next government might what?
Fund the CBC. Yep.
The game has changed. Everybody, the game has changed. It's no longer just on until Charlie Kirk, freaking 1 millisecond before that bullet hit that poor man, the game was always on the board, right? I mean, you could make the argument that what happened to Trump was already crossing the line. But
yes,
let's assume for a second that open debate, no matter how vicious, no matter how crazy, was always on a chess table. Then I pull out a gat and clock you. Have you just changed the rules of engagement?
Yes, and we all felt that as soon as you saw the video.
The problem is that most people are creating false equivalencies between freedom of speech by leaving out the most intrinsic piece, most important piece in this, is that the rules of engagement have just changed for debate. We are now, the left has declared, we are now going to assassinate, not all the left, people on the left with ideological bents that happen to be maybe warped or psychotic have lifted the gamut, basically, to the point where now we can shoot people, stab people, bomb people, blah, 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 blah. The rules of engagements have changed. And I think the funny part is saying it this way. I was in college. I don't know if, so GSP used to train with David Loiseau. I don't know if you remember David Loiseau.
I don't remember David Loiseau, but
yeah, he was in the beginning of the UFC. Okay. This is when GSP was like about to come into the whole MMA world. And David Loiseau is perhaps one of the most incredible martial artists ever. He was called the Crow. And if you ever want to watch him, he lives in Montreal. He teaches, he trains. He's one of the most phenomenal people I've ever watched. He's a physical specimen, incredible martial artist. We were in college and we were supposed to be doing Greco-Roman wrestling. Okay. And the whole idea, if you've ever done any kind of Greco-Roman, it's all about grappling and so on and so forth and tossing. And some guy got his back, flipped him, and he was really good at Greco-Roman. But David Loiseau is adept at many styles of martial arts. So he says, put on some gloves. We'll do wrestling, but let's also do a little bit of stand-up and wrestle. Basically, let's do MMA. It took him 3 seconds to put down the other guy. You have just changed the rules of engagement. And so when people like the FCC see a guy like Jimmy Kimmel propagate lies and try to bring down the rhetoric, never mind Barama said, punch them in the face, do like all the violent rhetoric that was coming out of the Democrat establishment. Maxine Waters, remember Maxine Waters? If they're going to go eat at a restaurant, go and harass them, get people, go to their houses. This constant onslaught, we played very fair and tried to keep a moral high ground. But the second that bullet went into that innocent man's throat, 31 years old, he's a little kid. I know he's tall and everything. He's a little kid. He just cracked his 20s. The second that happened, I think the rules of engagements have changed. And now we need to be aware that these people, they didn't come out of nowhere, these psychos. Somebody has been inciting and brewing and fomenting this type of ideology and creating this wedge and hatred, right, between these parties. And this person goes against Charlie Kirk is just a microcosm of a bigger issue. How many people after that, Sean, were celebrating the death and wishing the death of his entire family?
So let's shift to Manitoba then. Nahani Fontaine. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Her Instagram reshared a post calling Kirk a racist, xenophobic, transphobic, Islamophobic, sexist, white nationalist mouthpiece who made millions inciting hate. She went on to say she extended absolutely no empathy to him, only to his children, before calling for a country opposite to everything Kirk stood for. Think about that. Went on to say this wasn't some anonymous online troll spewing vitriol. This was a minister of the Crown of Manitoba, a person paid by the taxpayers to represent us, publicly celebrating the death of man killed for his beliefs. And, Wab Kinew has basically left her in position, right?
Dude, we had a prime minister that called people misogynist, racist, and a fringe minority. And then when asked by the CBC, do you regret saying that? Literally, this is what he said. Yeah, I wish I had used better words. No accountability. This is the decency factor that's gone. And this is why I think that politics, right? People say, what is it, that politics is downstream from culture? Our culture, and you know me, man, I like to get to the root of the problem. As Christians, we look at it and we know that the problem is not leaders. We know that it is human nature. Human nature tends to sin and basically rebelling against all that is good or decent. Even at our best, we're actually self-righteous, virtue signaling people. We sometimes don't even do things just for doing them. We do them to make ourselves feel good. Society has bred this, right? There's a line in the Old Testament about Sodom and Gomorrah, okay, where God is saying, how did Sodom and Gomorrah become Sodom and Gomorrah? He said, easy, idleness and fullness of bread. You could read that, by the way, in the Old Testament. God's appraisal of how Sodom and Gomorrah became a virulently psychotic, violent, depraved place was not because they were psychos. It was because there was a lot of comfort, a lot of idleness. Let's go to the mall, just chill at the mall. Let's do things. Let's play video games all day, not work. And fullness of bread. They lacked for nothing. It created a society that, what do we say? Idleness is the devil's playground. We have created these politicians because none of us had our eye on the ball. Dude, do you think COVID would have happened had our eye been on the ball? No. Nobody was holding any of their politicians to account the way we have been ever since the COVID lockdowns. Everybody now is suddenly into politics and everything. But what about the 10, 15 years before that? Who brought these types of people into power and who didn't hold them accountable? We did. We're the people voting these people in. And by the way, you could also track the church attendance to the societal decay.
I'm reading C.S. Lewis right now. And one of the things I wrote down last night is you cannot make men good by law. And without good men, you cannot have good society. And when you're talking about, us not having, not paying attention, we elected these people, we've allowed this to happen. Then you think, well, we just put a couple laws in place and things will change. But you've already pointed to it. It starts back at the home, right? Like it starts with us.
Yeah. You can't legislate good behavior. Good
Yeah.
behavior is a function of conscience. Now, I want to say this. It's not Christians only that are good. There are atheists that are good. I don't care what anyone says to me. There are Muslims that are good. They think consciously. This is an innate human thing. This is why in every single faction there's an extremist psychopathic group. Okay? It's not just Christians. Christians believe what we believe for our faith, and we follow that faith. But I've met Muslims who would do things and serve me in a way that sometimes Christians wouldn't do it. And I didn't ask for it. They were there to help me paint my house. They were there to put the bricks up on the outside of the wall. They didn't want a penny. They just wanted to say, "Are you kidding? It's my pleasure." These are people I grew up with. There are Jewish people that have helped me in my accounting, charged me nothing. There is a disparity here. There are some that are captured by the propaganda, and there are some that are just not going to be captured. And it doesn't have to be white, black, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. There are actually gay people going on Piers Morgan that are attacking the gay agenda of the United States. What they called gays, gays for freedom or something like that. They're on X, they're on TikTok. We have to come to terms with the fact that you can have any particular point of view, but there's always going to be these psycho extremes. This woman in Manitoba kept her job because, frankly, what would it look like if they fired her? I mean, what would it look like? It would look very bad, very bad. So a lot of these people, they behave in what is in their best interest optically. Had she just said, "Look, I don't like the guy," look, it's tasteless that she did that, but it's the fact that she says, "I don't mourn his death." That is subhuman. If anybody would have injured anybody on the left, I would not be celebrating it. And something tells me everybody that I know, not the far right, just on the right, would have said, "This is wrong. That we should not descend into this level where we change the rules."
I always tell the story, Vesper, of riding out in the Freedom Convoy when I caught up to it and we were riding and talking to people and watching them change from they wanted to drag Trudeau out in the streets of they just wanted to talk to him and have him resign or just address the problem. And I watched it change from a violent thing to when people got around people who were just would allow them to talk and listen. It changed right in front of my eyes. They went from being talking about violence, I would say, to just being like, honestly, I just want to be heard. I just want, for our leader to listen to our complaints and have a peaceful resolution. And then, of course, the Freedom Convoy went on to be, in Canadian history, probably the most peaceful protest ever. And maybe, it resembles some different ones across the world. But certainly in our lifetime, it was something almost shocking how peaceful it was. And there are people that would want violence on a lot of different people, but I watched it change in like the people I was talking to from violence to, honestly, I don't want any of that. I just want life back.
Here's the problem. The most low IQ of the Canadian population are buying into the anarchist strategies of whoever it is that's doing all this, right? The Soros, the liberal, name them, whoever it is. You are creating purposeful anarchy. You are pitting people against one another to create anarchy. Why? And this is a hobby of mine, right? I'm no teacher or anything, but from everything I've read, I'd say from the Persian era to the Babylonian to the Persian, the Greco-Roman, Roman, Assyrian, typically those that are in power, they pretend that they want order, but what they really want is anarchy. And in the midst of anarchy, you can get a lot done that goes unnoticed. And in my mind, the left has been engaging in this form of anarchy purposely, because it reorients or reinforces a class system to the advantage of those that are in the top of the hierarchy. So they want all of us against each other, because at the end of the day, nobody's paying attention to them.
Well, let's switch then to what Donald Trump announced. I'm pleased. Here's his tweet. I'm pleased to inform are many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster as a major terrorist organization. I will also strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for attention to this matter.
Yeah, good. But you know what? Let's be honest also. The Proud Boys should be designated a terrorist organization. The KKK should be designated a terrorist organization. You know why this matters, folks? Why Antifa should be designated? Because they are very prominent and they have many tendrils and tentacles that flow into many things, like the LGBT movement, like the transgender movement, like the Black Lives movement. By the way, did everyone forget that in Black Lives, Antifa was collaborating and co-conspirator in all the riots? So I'm glad that he's doing this. Yeah, but what about freedom of speech? I don't know. Let's see how your freedom of speech feels like when people are attacking your daughter or your son with a machete.
Yeah, but it's who's the guy, folks? Somebody can comment. There was a guy, I'm spacing on his name. That's terrible. That was on Rogan years ago talking about free speech, and he says the laws of free speech end when violence ensues, right? Like when you
they don't
the line
end.
of talking.
He's wrong. The freedom of speech never ends. You're allowed to always have free speech, even in jail. They'll put me in jail with a muzzle and I'll still talk. I think what you're trying to say and what he was trying to say is the law kicks in. Ira
Glasser is the guy I'm thinking of, and I'm butchering it, but he's like just that you can say whatever you want, and you can continue to say whatever you want, but as soon as you take violence and encourage violence, that's where laws have to kick in.
Yeah, and by the way, let's deal with this right now, Sean, very quickly. Everybody that's afraid that the government is going to censor social media, dude, the laws already exist. The laws have been there for the last 30 years. If you incite any violence in any way, letter, pigeon, mail, anyway, you will go to prison, right? There's a decent way to disagree, and then there's a vile way to disagree, where you threaten someone or you incite violence to someone, bodily harm. And if we're talking reputational harm, there's defamation laws. So all these people that are shocked that we're being censored, they're going to take away our speech. No, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that if you're going to criticize us, bring the receipts. Who's going to ever deplatform me when I take a video of Mark Carney saying something here and then contradicting himself here? On what basis will you then deplatform me? Right? So I think this is going to deal with all the liars. This is going to deal with all the people that are inciting hatred, that are creating but this is not an exclusively leftist thing. I'm a right conservative, center right, I'd say. But there's people on the right too that are advocating for civil war. This is not the answer. You are going to get yourself in trouble. You don't need a new bill. There are already laws that CSIS can use, the RCMP can use, and CIRA can use to get you arrested.
What are your thoughts? You know, me and you have talked lots at length on the podcast about government officials and people working in the public sector not facing ethics violations that have basically no teeth. And Canada's Information Commissioner, Carolyn Maynard, is on record saying ArriveCan record shredders could face criminal charges. Do you think there's anything to that?
I think government officials, if you cannot tie Mindone, if you cannot tie people to SDTC, like Champagne, right? Philippe Francois Champagne is directly tied to Jonathan Wilkinson, who's stepping down, by the way. He's not going to continue. Him, Bill Blair, all these guys are going to continue. They're going to leave. All of these people have tendrils and tentacles tied to the Green Slush Fund scandal. Can they be investigated and arrested? Where my problem is, Sean, and I think many Canadians listening to this are going to agree, it's not that it's not black and white. Steve Gibault is also stepping down, right? The guy that made a ton of money off of the Green Slush Fund and funded his own things to the tune of $50 million, right? Is that you have to ask yourself, why is the RCMP not pursuing greater investigations? If you have a second, I don't know if you could look it up. Can you post this on the screen here? Type Quebec arrest and Normando. I don't know if you know this. Okay, there should be articles up there.
How do I spell Normando?
Normandeau. Nathalie Normando.
You just want me to pull up a CBC article on it?
Yeah, and just post it for everybody. And if with your unbelievably luxurious voice, could you please read this to all of us?
Well, here, I'll pull it up on screen so people can see me read along. Natalie Normando, ex-Quebec deputy premier, arrested by UPAC. Natalia Normando, former second in command in Quebec Liberal government of Jean Charest.
Liberal.
Was among 7 people arrested Thursday as part of a sweep by the province anti-corruption unit, UPAC. The multiple arrests targeted members of Quebec Liberal Party and the Parti Québécois and are related to illegal campaign financing. Quoted, these offenses are serious not only because they're against the law, but because they threaten the principles of democracy and the sound management of public funds. Robert Lafreniere, the head of the UPAC, said at a news conference, it is unjust and unfair to use public contracts as a political tool. The arrest came just hours before Quebec's Liberal government released its 2016 budget. So this is going back quite some time.
Normando, who was Quebec's deputy premier under Jean Charest from 2007-11, faces charges that include conspiracy, corruption, breach of trust, bribery in relation to the awarding of a contract to build a water treatment plant in Boisbriand, Quebec. The charges come with a maximum sentence of 12 years. UPAC wouldn't confirm at the news conference that the charges related to Boisbriand water contract, but sources indicated that Radio-Canada that was the case, according to the public documents. Normando, who was the municipal affairs minister at the time, overruled senior bureaucrats to award the $11 million contracts of engineering from Rocher, who that guy, Marc-Yves Côté, owns Rocher, the guy on that screen. Okay. Rocher also did fundraising for Normando during a campaign. Where am I getting at? Do you know how long it took them? It took them a 4-year investigation, and in 1 month, they literally ran through the whole party and arrested everybody. Millions of dollars seized. And Jean Charest got away from this. Like, I didn't know. The problem, folks, is not that we don't know. It's that the RCMP is just not acting. And that's the point. I'm sorry. The RCMP is not acting. I did a thread once, Sean, demonstrating how NCIRA, by the way, they're the people that do reviews of CSIS and the RCMP, how they have often failed to share information in an adequate way and evidence that would permit them to function, and that there was actually systemic failures within the RCMP and CSIS to engage properly on cases, knowing the outcomes. So when we have a country where the prime minister gets to elect the head of the RCMP, the ethics commissioner, the governor general, not that that matters, the attorney general, and all these people are all like with him, why are we shocked none of these people are going to jail? See, that's the beautiful thing about what's happening in the States right now, right? Kash Patel, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, say what you will about what they're not doing. There's a lot of stuff that I don't agree with what they're doing. But a lot of these people, there is a retribution, the pendulum, right? What's the old physics saying? For every action, there's going to be an equal and opposite reaction. The pendulum is swinging. The other day, they had Kash Patel, and they were basically grilling him that you wouldn't basically seek revenge on your political opponents. And why would they be worried about that? If you did nothing wrong, then why would you be worried? The only way this gets dealt with, I'm telling you right now, if hypothetically, say Pierre Poilievre gets into power, the Conservatives get a majority, it would behoove Larry Brock, Michael Barrett, all these people to not let this go and say, well, now that we won, who cares? Let's let it go. No, you are to create a task force that would investigate basically the last 10 to 12 years of Carney Trudeau. And you are not going to play this game of evidence, not evidence. You know, we're dealing with this situation where the RCMP failed to act. Do you remember they failed to act on credible information related to Aga Khan, the We Charity, SNC Lavalin? Dude, the VP for SNC Lavalin is in jail now because of sending money to back to the Middle East and Africa. The SNC Lavalin has a long stained history of illegal activity, and all these politicians, you're telling me that the police can arrest none of them? Yeah, because it's not them, it's the RCMP, man. They're not doing their jobs.
What do you think of Quebec leader Blanchette offering to go to the West and talk about Alberta separation?
I mean, listen, if you're talking about a poutine with a steak, I mean, what goes better with a steak? Okay. Okay, maybe mashed potatoes, but let's be honest here. You have a guy who speaks for a lot of Bloc Québécois, who frankly does not believe in something called Canada. He believes that Quebec is a country, and then there's the rest of you hicks, okay? And in some sense, he's looking at it from his worldview and protecting his national French identity, blah, blah, blah. In his mind, I think if he is doing this legitimately, he wants to weaken the rest of Canada so that Quebec can get out. If I help them and they leave, you guys are the breadbasket of Canada. If you leave, Quebec will have, oh, well, look, they left. We want to leave too. So let me help my enemy defeat a greater enemy. If this is what's really happening here, it would make sense.
One more. Former Justice Minister David Lametti to leave Prime Minister's office. Lametti, the second Trudeau-era minister, set to depart government in coming weeks. Former Justice Minister David Lametti will be leaving his job as a principal secretary to Prime Minister Mark Carney after just a couple of months on the job. His departure would mark another former Trudeau-era minister leaving the political arena, following former Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland's departure from cabinet on Tuesday. And then Carney went on to announce Tuesday that Freeland will be Canada's special representative for the reconstruction of Ukraine, a new role created by the Prime Minister. Your thoughts on both Lametti and Freeland?
So let's do Lametti first.
Sure.
Petty Lametti, I call him. Let's not all forget who Lametti, who he was replacing. You remember who he replaced? Jody Wilson-Raybould. Trudeau got rid of Jody Wilson-Raybould. Yeah. When she was calling him out for what he was doing in SNC Lavalin. He sent her to Indigenous Affairs, which is basically to the mailroom of the whole government apparatus, and puts in a professor who is completely biased liberal. There is not a bone in this man's body that is at all like nonpartisan. Okay, he's the one that created the laws that would obfuscate, for example, detransitioning. You know how people would talk to people that were struggling with their identity and their sexuality. He's the one that bolstered the law to make it illegal that if you are in a church, in any setting, trying to unconvince somebody that they are not a homosexual, that you would be arrested. What's funny is that he didn't create the laws in an inverse way also. If you are pressuring somebody that is confused to become a homosexual, that's not a crime. Okay? I don't want to talk about the convoy because I think we've all hashed it out so much with Lametti. In my mind, it's probably the right thing for him to leave. There's a lot of optics. I posted a video just recently on my X. People could go and see it. David Lametti, when the Supreme Court, the federal court justice Mosley gave his ruling, he deleted his X account literally right after the ruling. And then a day later, after it's probably been scrubbed, so he thinks, because I record every liberal's timeline. You could delete whatever you want. I still have them. I have terabytes that are saved off the cloud, not in my home, on a cloud somewhere. And I share it with like 20 other people just in case, And the funny thing is, why would you delete your Twitter after the ruling came down that what you did with the EA was found to be illegal and a breach of the charter? So Lametti is dirty. Lametti needs to go, but a lot of them, like you said, there's probably a lot that's going to start coming out, and I wouldn't be shocked if, especially with the findings of what's been happening with the ArriveCAN. Hey, we haven't even gotten back to SDTC. That's still going to be ongoing. A lot of these guys are implicated, bro. A lot of these guys are. Hey, can we switch it to something a bit lighter before we jump to the next thing? Have you watched the Terminal List?
Terminal List?
Yeah. What did you think of that movie? I mean, forget the vengeance storyline, but the idea that this whole time he thought it might have been an international thing, but he ended up finding out that it was domestic. And what was the driving force for those that have never watched it? What did you think about
that? How many? What was that? A year ago, or was that 2 years
ago?
That
came I'd say about 2 years ago. I'm now watching The Dark Wolf, which is the prelude to this,
the prequel to it.
Yeah.
So I haven't started the prequel.
It's really good, by the way. I really like it.
Forgive me, because I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go. What I recall of the show is I really enjoyed it. So
the show. Let me just hash it out for those.
Yeah.
These soldiers in a platoon, Navy SEALs, were given without their consent a untested drug that was supposed to help them by removing the ability for soldiers to experience any kind of post-traumatic stress disorders syndrome. What it ended up doing was that it created tumors in their brains. It failed. Okay. It was called RD-283. Okay. And every one of them began to experience headaches and so on, but they started being offed one at a time until we get to Chris Pratt's character, basically. And they tried to off him, and that's who the story is centered around. They're telling him he's going crazy, and he does indeed have a tumor. But this whole time he thought it was like Iran or Syria doing all this to him. And he ends up finding out it was his own government doing this to him. They were trying, and how? Not because the government. They ran an experiment. They did it with corporations, these multi-billion-dollar corporations. It didn't work, but they needed to kind of clean
house. Yeah,
clean house.
Get rid of the story.
Right, all these people, and he went one by one, and that's why it's called the Terminal List. You really all should watch it. He had the names of every single person implicated, and up a hierarchy like this, and it led from this guy to this guy, from this guy to this guy, from this guy to this guy. And there was this one line where this news reporter, remember the Asian woman that was a news reporter? She's like, "We could bring him to justice." And I remember this line Chris Pratt says, "I am justice." And, a lot of us probably feel that way. Like, can we cut the red tape and just get to the truth? Problem is, Canada and the United States is bogged down with so much red tape that to get to the truth is just going to be a nightmare. So David Lametti, to get him on anything, you have to go through a ton of red tape, a lot of legal stuff. If we talk about the other person, sorry, forgive me, who else will we talk about?
Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah, Chrystia Freeland, it's funny. She was the one that had a $42 billion embarrassing thing and then resigned. That wicked witch of Ukraine resigned right after. And it's funny how Trudeau did to her. Like, yeah, listen, we kind of fucked up the entire budget. And we don't really know how
it only took until an hour 27 for you to make me laugh. Perfect,
yeah.
Vesper.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Yeah, we kind of effed up. But, you're a Ukrainian. Right? You're a woman, right? I mean, they're not going to hate us so much. I mean, it would have helped if you were also gay. If you happen to be a gay Ukrainian woman, you tick off a lot of boxes. It would have been better if you were a gay Black Ukrainian woman. Then nobody would have accused us of anything on our budget. But then she comes out, tables the budget, doesn't give a speech, and then rips into Trudeau online, and then runs for to become prime minister. Carney becomes prime minister. Did you just see what the recent, by the way, what was her problem with Trudeau? Do you remember in that letter what her problem was? We can't be playing political games. The Trump era establishment is a credible threat to Canada's economy. We can't be playing games anymore. We need to save money for the incoming tariff war. So she was already calling this, right? What does Carney do? Carney goes to Trudeau, hold my beer. I'm going to turn it from 42 billion to an estimate of over $100 billion. Next thing you know, Christian Freeland is no longer going to be in government. I wonder why. You argued with Trudeau for 42 billion, and now Carney's like 96 billion and up. Then she leaves, and she probably had a massive disagreement with him. She's like, "This is not the way to go. We're not going to beat the Americans by you doing this." And Carney was like, "Hey, you're free to go." So she left, and he's like, "But look, I don't want to go completely. Can you give me some kind of position?" "Yeah, sure. You can go back to Ukraine and collect all the stolen money that we've been sending there too." So that's what I think. They're all corrupt, and and if not in this life, in the next, there will be a reckoning for all of these people.
I know Twos is probably sitting watching this, and he's like, "Sean, you took my notes, and I'm going to hear about it next week on his rant, folks. You just wait for Mashup 177, Twos rant about Sean butchering everything." But happy news, okay? Happy news this week. New College of Florida. Today we announced that we will commission a statue of Charlie Kirk to honor his legacy and incredible work after his tragic assassination last week. The statue, privately funded by community leaders, will stand on campus as a commitment by New College to defend and fight for free speech and civil discourse in American life. The location for the statue will be announced in the coming months. So there you go. There's the first of, I assume, Vesper, many that are done throughout the country would be my guess.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is great news. And look, it's not because it's Charlie Kirk. I would have wanted a statue if it was a liberal that was assassinated. We need to commemorate people that do good with open dialogue, whether we agree with them or not. You could be very harsh, you could be very incendiary, but it needs to be fair. A debate is a debate. These are debaters. And unfortunately, Charlie Kirk now represents not just, I would say, even the right people. What about the left? Dude, there's left people that are now afraid to debate, right? So it's not just the right that are afraid. There is a retributional feeling going around, right? And yeah, we have psychos on the right. Dude, we got people out in Biloxi. Hey, Claytis, get them rifles right here. I got these bullets just sitting out here. I don't know, get them potatoes. Maybe we want to eat some. I'm going to go look at these liberal people talking. Like, I'd be scared. It's like that Dave Chappelle skit with the black white supremacist when he was the leader of the KKK, and like when he took off. There are psychos on both sides, guys, and I think to tone down the rhetoric, it would require understanding if the rules of engagement have changed. So far, we've covered a slew of things, bro. But the main thing I want to say is the Jimmy Kimmel thing represents the main issue we're all facing. There is rhetoric that is incendiary and is aimed at dividing us. Most of us that are not psychopathic on SRIs want a stable society where we don't have to agree, but we don't want to scare the living shit out of each other either. So I say that people like Kimmel, people like Colbert, anybody that's espousing false narratives should be dealt with. Do I like that the government's getting involved? No. Do we have another recourse for removing this cancer? Like, you're often given a chance. If I had to give you a choice, brother, and say to you, look, man, there's a disease in your arm right now, Sean. We can risk it by going through the sinews and the muscles to see if we can slowly extrapolate and remove this disease from you. But we're on a deadline. We're on a timeline. This could spread further. Should we just chop off your arm? What would you do?
I'd reach out to all the doctors I know and I'd find some natural way of doing it. I would be like, no, I'm keeping my arm. I got faith in the big guy above. I got way too many people who know way too many things that have been silenced for way too long. And I feel like there'd be a way. But in this case, that's not exactly apples.
I get my arm chopped off.
Fair enough. Vespers get one arm Vesper.
One arm Vesper.
All right. Community notes here this week. So on Charlie Kirk, there's a vigil. There's been vigils going on all over the place. A vigil in loving memory of Charlie Kirk tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at Galt Gardens, Lethbridge, Alberta. So in Lethbridge, they're having a vigil there. We got the mash spiel, which we were talking about having here in November. We pushed it to January 17th.
By the way, I saw the vigil in Alberta, dude. That was big for Charlie Kirk. We didn't have shit in Montreal.
Really?
No,
why is that?
Nothing as significant as what you guys did.
Why do you think that is?
Because Montreal's a leftist shithole. That's why. I mean, no disrespect. There are conservatives here, the Greeks, the Italians, but in terms of government, it's run by the mob, man. They don't care about that kind of stuff. Alberta still has a soul. Alberta still has a soul.
Well, I
don't think any other province besides maybe Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta.
Oh, got some love for you, Saskatchewan folks watching.
Yeah, like y'all got a soul. You guys still have soul. You don't hate Christianity. You don't, for the most part. All these other progressive provinces have turned their backs on God, Christ, anything of decency, and so of course you're going to see the lewdest things.
I am curious. I am very curious what the comments after this conversation are going to be. I don't know. Has there been an F-bomb thrown today? I don't.
I threw one.
People are.
I'm trying.
What's happened in the mashup I've come to love so dearly? Anyways, doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. I'm curious everybody's thoughts. Alberta referendum freedom. That'll be APP is going to be in Grand Prairie, October 3rd, 7 p.m. at the Holiday Inn for people interested in that. What else we got here? I think if I pull this up, where are you at? Sorry, folks. I should have had this like ready to roll, but of course I was running through some things. No, that's September 13th. Okay, let's flip to my screen here. We got the Mash Bill January 17th. I don't know, Vesper, if you've heard about this. Me and Tooz are doing a bond spiel for Mashup.
No,
it's curling. We're gonna do some curling. I suck.
That's so
at curling.
Gay. You're so gay. Both of you are just so gay.
So, Vesper, you don't want to, as a co-host of the Mashup, you don't want to come to Alberta and do some curling?
No, I'm not gay, bro. I'll send my wife. She'll do the brooming and screaming. She does it anyway.
January 17th. That is.
By the way, don't show this to my wife. Don't show this to my wife.
January 17th, Kalmar, Alberta, just east of Leduc. That's where it's going to be. We're going to have 16 teams available. And
I can't imagine Tooz with a broom screaming. He probably does this anyway.
I'll make sure I send videos to you. Okay, that way you can have it.
And I'm gonna totally supercut this and make a mockery of Tooz and
I look forward to it. Reel. And I'm gonna tell you right now, when you do, I will play it live on the show. Okay,
I'm totally doing it. Just get the audio fixed.
Tooz, don't listen to this part, but I'm gonna take video of him curling so you can have some fun with it. Quick Dick McDick is live in Lashburn, November 22nd. That's a fundraiser for a new playground for Lashburn Elementary School.
What a great dude! What a great dude, man. He really is a great dude, man. Big ups to Quick Dick, man.
One of the cool things, and I don't know if Quick Dick wants me saying this, but I don't know how else to say it. You know what he's charging for that, Vesper?
Don't tell me zero, because that I wouldn't be shocked.
$0 because it deals with kids.
Quick, you are an awesome dude. I don't even know if you're following me, but like he really is one of the awesomest dudes. I know he looks intimidating, but he is an intellectual, and a lot of people need to start listening to this shit that he has to say. I really respect what he has to say.
We Unify, that is, it's already started. It's today, tomorrow, and Sunday. So if anybody's in Calgary, that's why I'm here. I'm sitting in Calgary right now at SGB headquarters, and I'm going to be around the We Unify conference all day tomorrow, part of Sunday morning. I got, me and Tanner today were talking about it yesterday. I'm on a panel, I'm hosting a panel online with him and Maxime Bernier, Matt Alexander, and Wyatt Claypool. That should be interesting, I think. But that's Sunday morning, and
I got blocked by Maxime Bernier. I don't know why. I never said a bad thing about him, but I guess it's just maybe information war, right? At this point, maybe he doesn't hate me. It's the way that he wants things to go. May I share one last thing before you finish your announcements?
Yeah.
I know you're all wondering, like, why the hell are you living in Montreal when you love the West so much? I grew up on a farm in Beirut and in Syria. So in my heart, I've always been attracted to like non-urban areas. And I've lived more rural, I would say, in the majority of my life. It's frankly, I would say it's my partner. She loves the city and I hate the city. But if I could, and if I had been single, believe me, I'd be out there living with you guys right now. And it's not for lack of trying to convince, but I just want you all to know if it sounds like I'm trying to play it up like it's the West, it's not. It's because my heart is rural, but I have to live here in the city. And this is why he brings on a Montrealer to talk to him, who sounds more like he belongs out in the West.
Prairie Rising Forum, Regina, in Regina, October 18th. And then SMP, I got a Christmas party, Dueling Pianos, December 20th. If any companies are interested, we sell tables for that. And we get together and try and have a good time, relative good time. We have a good time. It's going to be December 20th this year. It's over half sold out. I think there's about 10 tables left, I think, if memory serves me correct. So if anybody's interested in that, that's also coming up. The Cornerstone Forum is March 28th. I announced it on a show earlier this week, but to the Mashup crew, if you're marking your calendar for when to be back in Calgary for the Cornerstone Forum, that's March 28th. Vesper, any final thoughts before I let you out of here? I appreciate you coming on and doing this short notice. I can already feel Twos is going to scold me for missing out on like 50 things, because there's a lot. Don't get me wrong. Twos built this beautiful document, and he's going to be like, what the hell did I do that for? I mean, you just choose what you want. And it's funny. I'm like,
Twos is probably behind the barn with the chicken doing something right now that we shouldn't be talking about. Okay. Listen, man, at the end of the day, this was fun. Yeah, it was last minute, but I'll tell you what, it's always a blast talking to you. Canadians, don't fall for the anarchy trap that's being propagated on all of us. Keep cool heads. Cool heads always prevail. You're allowed to be angry, but anger needs to be channeled. I remember reading that in the Odyssey, where Odysseus, who got very angry for what people were doing to his kingdom, kept a level head. And I think cooler heads will always prevail over people that become too emotional. Check your emotions, get emotional, but use your heads, and God give you wisdom and lead you in that, because honestly, we need a spirit of wisdom and a spirit of peace, strength. Right? Not peace like peacemakers necessarily, although that would be good, but we also need that peace within, right? So that whatever's coming at us, we could look at it with a level head, So that's my final word. And I thank you, Sean. You're a stellar host, and it's always a blast. And you can always count on me if you ever need me, man.
Folks, we're here every Friday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. I assume Twos will be back in the chair next week. Vesper, appreciate you filling in for a week. And all the best to everybody out there. Go enjoy the weekend. Try and be around family. And if you're in Calgary, make sure you run into me and say hello at the We Unify conference. Yes.
What do you think? I just got my new Gretsch. It cost me about $1,200, but I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's black and gold. I know I don't have the color right now. I could probably turn on the color real quick just to show you. I know people ask me why you don't have the color, but I want to show you what it looks like. It's so beautiful. Hold on.
I'm going to be honest. It looks like a good guitar to me.
All right, show it.
I'm not the guy. I'm just not the guy. I'm sure somebody's like, that's a beautiful. I'm not the guy. Folks, that's going to do it for us this week.
Don't forget to follow me on X.
Vesper on X, Vesper Digital on X. And once again, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week, and look forward to catching up with everybody this weekend at We Unify. If you're around Saturday, come find me. Would love to chat with y'all. Till next week, folks.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Tell me whether I'm wrong or right. East or west, up or down, side to side. I sit to stand and fall to fly. Of all of my impulsive plans, pop and lock and salsa dances on demand. I follow leading off the map and stop the chatter, scream happily.
Welcome to the Mashup.
Welcome to the mashup. Welcome to the